Biceps. Biceps and arm wrestling. What is going on? All beginners, man, they train the living daylights out of their biceps. And lately, there's been a lot of like real sexy pictures posted of these maximum bicep lifts. And I'm just trying to figure, I mean, we should probably have a talk for those of us learning to arm wrestle on the arm wrestling league on how important biceps are, because it's funny that when the arm wrestlers win, it's like, yeah, we flex the biceps, but not the real professional arm wrestlers. They're all like forearm flexing and stuff, but still a lot of bicep, a lot of heavy bicep lifts out there. And I'll be honest, I love seeing them. I love seeing these people grab those big heavy weights and do that bicep lift. But should heavy bicep training be a big chunk of your training routine? Specifically the one-handed dumbbell stuff. I see a lot of people grabbing a dumbbell, grabbing it on the arm wrestling table and like hammer curling it and saying, yeah, I'm working my top roll because I don't want to be like a real man, I want a top roll. But no offense, but doing this with a dumbbell feels nothing like somebody top rolling you, which feels like when you are being top rolled, it feels like that power is pulling you this way. When you're dumbbell curling, you're fighting a force going this way, which means this is a good exercise if somebody is pulling you down. But I don't know how many arm wrestlers have the ability to pull you down on account of their elbows in that table. They might be able to pull you down turning like a press. So I'm a little concerned. I'm just a little confused about this, how popular bicep training has gotten. But to be honest, a lot of it might be this new generation of video arm wrestling that we have. Because those sexy, I gotta edit that out. Those sexy bicep lifts are, man, they are impressive, and I do like seeing them. But ask yourself, those of you who've arm wrestled and I'm talking specifically to you beginners, because you experienced arm wrestlers already know where I'm headed with this. But when I come home from an arm wrestling competition, I make note of what went good, what went bad, and that's how I reevaluate and readjust my training program for the next one. All right? Was I slow? Did I lack back pressure, side pressure, down pressure? Was my hit insufficient? Was my lock insufficient? Did I get the match stopped and still got overpowered slowly? Do I need to be more dynamic, more explosive? I mean, these are all things that you need to work on. But I gotta tell you, I come home from arm wrestling tournaments. I come home from arm wrestling Marcio, and I could not close my fingers. That man busted my hand open so bad I could not hold a can of beer in my right hand. I don't know what else didn't work, but once I realized I couldn't hold a beer in my right hand, I stopped trying other things. I've come home with the inside of my biceps hemorrhaged, my elbows hurting, forearms pumped up. Looked like I've been working at Baskin Robbins for 70 years. My forearms would be so big. Never. I started arm wrestling in 2000. 21 years ago. I have never come home from a tournament and said, wow, my biceps are tired. Or, if only I had more bicep force. Or, I just never had that experience. I just think if you're doing those heavy bicep lifts, you're not doing something else. So if you are prioritizing heavy bicep work, then in my mind, maybe you're neglecting something that might help. Unless heavy bicep work makes you a better arm wrestler. Does it? I don't think so. I mean, there are bicep pullers, right? I mean, there are no doubt people who Blinkoff, when he pulls me, when he pulls shorter people, he jumps on that bicep and drags people over. He does very good at it. Yordzanev from Bulgaria, he gets hard on his bicep, man. He gets into a classic preacher curl motion. Ties people up 20, 30 seconds. His opponents will be all on top of him, all in tight, and he sits there on that bicep in a position that I tell people you can't dig your arm out of that. Not only does he dig his arm out, but he wins more often than not. And there are probably others, but there's an up-and-coming arm wrestler out of Australia, Lachlan Adair. He's a big bicep puller. He's up and coming. And Rob Vigent Jr., RVJ, when he pulls me, he's not on his bicep, but I see him pull a lot of other people on their biceps. And I always felt cheated. It was like, because when I pulled a RVJ, I never got bicep pulling RVJ. I got the big, classic, giant, freaking hand RVJ. And I was like, Mommy, I don't want to go to this school. I want to go to the RVJ's bicep school. But RVJ never let my bus stop there. So, stop with your comments already. I understand how ironic it is that I just led off with biceps are not important, as important, and you shouldn't be training them. And then I list 3 world famous arm wrestlers who pull in their bicep and one who's going to be world famous who pulls on his bicep. But that's the dichotomy of arm wrestling. Everybody's got a different view and a different perspective. But I will say there are far more elite non-bicep pullers than there are bicep pullers. Normally, if you can get somebody over onto their bicep, if you're pulling on your bicep, you got that weight on that elbow and you're trying to contract that. You're not loading up your skeletal system, you're not loading up your tendon. Maybe if you can get it over, but even then, you're putting a lot of force on the soft tissue. Which is why here at Excellence Not Victory, we coach more shoulder, for lack of a better term, I'm not inventing it, and arm wrestlers are terrible at naming stuff. But if you're pulling through your shoulder, you're locking it in and you're applying force along the axis of this bone. So you're shoving things this way. If you're a bicep puller, you're applying force the way your elbow is meant to bend, right? But you're relying on that bicep. When you push this way, you're stressing those tendons, but if they push down, you're trying to compress that bone. So, that's what I believe. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I believe, and that's what I coach. But I just don't think those super sexy heavy bicep lifts are good for you. And I would never recommend a beginner do them. I would train a beginner to pull more so through their shoulder, their legs, and their torso, just because those muscle groups are bigger and you'll generate a lot more force. But Uncle Todd, I can bicep curl, I'm so strong, I can grab yesterday's sunshine and pull it back into today. That's pretty strong, and I believe you. But, this is where I was going with it. So, but I don't think it's the most efficient way of pulling, because I want you to do a favor. You bicep pullers, do me a favor. All right, go get your table, go get your wrist wrench. Set your wrist wrench up either perpendicular to the table or parallel to the table. And do your 1 rep max. Oh, hold on, pizza's done. I know. a suicide cause. That's what we're having when this is done. Anyways, where was I? Thanks, Grandma. You're right. Set your table up perpendicular or parallel and grab your wrist wrench, because all these sexy heavy bicep lifts are always with the tiny handles. So when you're maxing out your bicep curl, you got your thumb basically up on your second knuckle, your wrist is fully curled in, and you're doing that strict bicep. Now it is sexy as shit when you do that, but I don't know how many arm wrestling matches that you get to be in like that. But grab that wrist wrench, which is trying to open your hand, whether you're doing it this way, and start adding the weight. And now in the beginning, you'll start bicep curling it, but when you get up to max weight, you're going to find yourself shoulder pressing it, or shoulder driving it as a mid. I mean, but it's probably not a press. And that's because all of you who are familiar with me and the Church of Westside Barbell know that the high priest of constant strength improvement, Louis Simmons, will tell you you can lift a lightweight lots of different ways, right? I give you a 10 or 15 pound weight, say put it over your head. You can grab it, put it over your head, put it over your head. You can take it from one hand, toss it, catch it in the other. But when I give you a super heavy weight, your max effort weight, and say put it over your head, that's only going over your head one way. You can lift a lightweight lots of ways. You can lift your max weight one way. And that's why it's called your PR. It's the most you can lift. And you can only lift that weight one way. And that one way on a wrist wrench is never bicep curling it. So, although the bicep curlers, that bicep does get you when someone slams you over, bam, and you can stop that hook. You can stop it. Sorry, I never turned the oven off. You can stop it, but unless you're in Zonev, you never get your arm out of that. Here's my son walking through my bicep video. Did you wave to my 7,000 subscribers?
The 7,000 people that don't care about you?
Well,
those people?
70 don't care, but 6,030 do. Now I gotta put the fish back in. I'll be right back. So, stay with those really sexy bicep lifts, but I just don't think you're helping your arm wrestling. What I think you want to do is you want to train your biceps for elbow health, but you want to train full range motion or even extended motion. Anything that would put a stretch in it to get that elbow healthy. But these 1 rep max, tiny handle curls, not so much. I just don't think that's where you're headed. We gotta make sure the water I'm putting in this fish tank isn't so cold. There's a thermometer on the side of it. And I got stuff I put in this water to treat it, so that the fish doesn't get all that super hard water. Anyways, children, thanks for watching. Bye.